What's up everybody, welcome to the third episode of this Ottoman tutorial for 1.15, where obviously we play the Ottomans. We have not done anything yet, we just did our advisors. I explained this tab and this tab as well as everything here. If you're watching for the first time, please watch the first episodes first, because we're going to assume that you understand the rest before. If you don't, ask in the comments if you already watched the videos. So we're going to the third tab, the economy tab. If you ever done a budget, you will understand this pretty damn quickly. But we'll start here. So, as I said, the economy is broke down in multiple sources. The first three main sources that everyone has access to is taxes, production, and trade. These are three different, sources. They come straight from your provinces in the case of taxes and production. So taxes, this province is giving me 0.36 taxes. This is on a monthly basis. Production is giving me 0.1. If you add all my provinces, it will give me 10.81 taxes and 4.55 production. Taxes is straight up bonus based on your base tax. Production is based on your production level, but also your trade goods. So if you have a better trade good, like grain is one of the worst trade good in the game, but we have silk here, which is worth 4, and also 7 production here, so there's a lot more production here than here. Also, taxes is very good early game because taxes is pretty much linear, so it starts high, but it does not really improve much. While production starts very low, but as your administrative technology goes up, your production will eventually catch up and bypass your taxes. I'm not asking you guys how to play the game. I know exactly what to do with the Ottomans, thank you. Trade is a much more competitive source of income. It comes from your trade, so it's the money you're making out of your merchants and your trade. I will explain more in details when you actually do trade. This is one video just for trade. But basically it's the money you do with trade. Sometimes you will play the game and your income will go up and down and you don't know why. Usually it's because of your trade, because as I said, trade is competitive. You protect your trade, but since money comes from a trade node, this trade node, we're not alone in the trade node. There's other nations that makes money here, Byzantium, Karaman, etc., etc. As we go to war and take land and siege land and etc., this money can go up and down. Then gold. Certain provinces, like Kosovo, by example, produces gold. As you can see, gold says nothing. Like if you say this current price is 2, gold current price is 0. Why? Because gold does not produce trade income or production income. It produces income directly. It's a high level of income, but gold will also create inflation, what I explain in a second. Tariffs comes from if you are a colonizer and you have colonies in the New World, you will tax them directly, which will come in the form of tariffs. Vassals is if you have vassals, we'll have vassals soon. Vassals are forced to give you a portion of their income every month. Arbor fees is linked to what I explained in the last video when we were talking about fleet basing rights. So if I was to ask Hungary fleet basing rights, it would cost me money every month, right? But if I was giving them fleet basing rights, then I would have an income every month, which would come here. Subsidies, I also explained, when you do subsidies, give subsidies to a nation from this. As an income, obviously, as if another nation would give you subsidies. Usually you get that when you're a small nation that is fighting the rival of a big nation. The big nation will give you money to support your war with their enemy. Spoils of war is done, as it says, when you're at war, in 2 ways. When you siege a province, you will be looting the province. This bar, I'll explain when we get there. But basically, as you have an army sitting on an enemy province, you will slowly loot the money in that province. This will come in the form of spoils of war. You can also get spoils of war when you're pirating a nation. We'll get to that when we do a navy. And you also get spoils of war at the end of a war when in the peace deal you're asking for money. And war reparations is one of the decisions you can ask in a peace deal to ask them to give you 10% of their income for the next 10 years. It will come in the form of war reparations. This is the income, now the expenses. First, your advisors cost you money. These are the 3 advisors I hired at the start of the game. A +1 cost 1 ducats a month. Interest, that's if you took loans. I'll explain in a second what a loan is. Well, what a loan is in the game. But as you have loans, you're paying interest every month. Arbor fees is the opposite of arbor fees if you're paying for them. Diplomatic expenses can be subsidies, can be supporting rebels. I explained in the last video. Vassal fees if you are a vassal. Outgoing tariffs if you are a colonial nation. War reparations if you're paying war reparations. Support loyalists if this is done on a personal union to make them more loyal. You're paying money. You're paying them money to be loyal. And send officers. You're doing that on a protectorate to boost their army. And fort maintenance. Forts cost money every month. Colonial maintenance, if you're a colonial power, when you have a colonist turning a province into a city, the colonist will cost you money, usually it's 2 ducats a month. Missionaries maintenance, while you have a missionary sent to a province to convert it, it's costing you 0.5 ducats a month. Generally speaking, bearing inflation, what I explain in a second. Army maintenance, my current army is costing me 7.11 ducats a month. Fleet maintenance, that's my ships. And that's it. Then you do this minus this, it gives you this number. And that's basically what we're doing every month. Now you tell me, why is it saying 12.85 here and 6.62 here? Well, because the number up here is bugged. First is because it's the first month of the game. Whenever you load the game, this is one of the bugs in the game. Whenever you load the game, the numbers for your income will, and your relations and your unrest will not be right. You need the month to tick over to the next month for the game to be able to calculate the numbers properly. Although for some reason when it comes to income it calculates it properly here. So whenever this number and this number are not the same, pay attention to this number. This is more right than this. Don't ask me why. This is the engine. Now inflation. We'll take loans first. Talk to loans first. This is pretty easy. So if you click on this, you will get an amount of money which is based on your monthly income. It's 5 years, so you have 5 years to pay it back. You're going to pay 4% of interest over the 5 years. You can pay it ahead of time, which will cost you more money, but will remove the loan. In 5 years, if you are not paying it, you will get a pop-up telling you do you want to extend or pay the loan. If you extend it, you'll get inflation. Now every time you take a loan, you get 0.1 inflation, or whenever you extend it. Yes, Cartel then, but it's still a bug on the first month because it's not calculating your trade. Trade takes a month to tick over. There's just a clarification that chat is asking for. Trade to be calculated properly, because since it's competitive, it's relative strength to relative strength. It needs a month to tick over to calculate properly the numbers that are intertwined. Because trade is not calculated properly, usually the nation that leads the node will start the game with more income. It doesn't really have more income. When the game ticks over, you'll suddenly lose this income. But yes, over the game, this number and this number won't be the same thing, because the number here gives you what you earned last month, while this will tell you what you will earn next month. So you gain inflation by taking loans, you gain inflation by having gold, as I explained already, and you gain inflation by taking money directly through a peace deal. As inflation goes up, well, the inflation from gold is a monthly thing, while the other things are inflation that you get straight from doing an action. Also, you'll get inflation from events. Inflation going up will increase the cost of your army, increase the cost of your advisors, increase the cost of your maintenance and colonial and missionaries. That's the basic things it does. Also, when you reach 5 and 10, it will unlock some bad events that will just increase more inflation. If you reach 15 inflation, you are at risk of going bankrupt, which is basically game over, technically speaking. Basically, as a rule of thumb, you want to stay under under 5 inflation. If you're really in bad shape and you don't, because it costs you administrative points to reduce inflation. If you really don't have the points to afford it, you can go up to 10 because the events between 5 and 10 are not that bad and are rare. If you go over 10, within the next month you can expect to be at 15. There's an event that will just give you 5 straight up. You don't want to go over 10. You want to stay under 5 if you can. Raise war taxes is when you're at war, you can pay 50 military points to get a reduction of 20% on your army maintenance. While you're in war, you will have to renew it every 2 years. And it goes away as soon as you're at peace. War exhaustion, I'll explain that when I get to unrest. And development level, each province has a development level. 10, 9, 15, etc. If you add all my provinces, I have 293 development spread over 27 provinces. I'll explain development when we do the provinces. It's basically the higher it is, the more valuable that province is. So that's basically it for that. This is basically self-explanatory. I'm gonna skip trade because again that's a video on its own. Technology, that will light some bulbs. It will explain a lot of things. How long is this? Okay. So this is technology. Most of the world starts at 3, with the exceptions of the natives, which starts at 1 and 2. So this will go here first. Well, we are at 3, which gives us effects, but we'll get to the effects when I explain them. This bar is how far you are from getting the next level. This is basically a measure of your current monarch points for that. Well, basically admin goes to admin, diplo to diplo, military to military. So we have 98, and it would cost us currently 748 points to buy the next level. As I said, technology is not cheap. Also, we are in a tech group that is not, well, we're not Western basically. So our technology, one of our penalty as being Ottomans, is that our technology costs 25% more. So the base level value is 600 for everyone. Then it's multiplied by other things. Increase over time will slowly go down, meaning that will be costly as the game progresses. It will become a penalty very shortly. Anatolian is our technology group. The only way to do that will be to westernize, which we'll explain when we explain that. There are other things, ideas. Once you build ideas, it will lower the cost of subsequent technology in that group. There are decisions, events, etc. that one can lower or increase it. Also, when you reach a certain level, you will see this number change. This is part of the modifiers here, but this is more specific to 2 things. I'll explain what that is in a second, but there are 2 things that will affect this over time, while being ahead of time, and your neighbor's bonuses. Being ahead of time is that the game is set for certain tech levels to be reached at a certain date in time, so that someone that is extremely cheap technology doesn't get super ahead super quick and then kills everyone because of it. So even if you're in a Western group, you will be stuck at some point, because this is 10% increase in cost per year that you are ahead of tech. So eventually you'll see this number turn red. That's because you are currently on the tech level that you're supposed to be, and the next level is ahead of time. Every time that the year goes at January, this will go down by 10% until the year that the game is set for that technology to exist happens. You can buy it ahead of time, but there are other things to do with your monarch points that waste them on technology ahead of time. The only thing that I would suggest to get technology ahead of time is in military in the mid-late game, because spending it, the other ways to spend military and monarch points is not that great, and having an advantage on military can be decisive in the war. The other 2, this is way too valuable to spend on being ahead of technology. And diplomatic technology, you have other things that you can, multiple other things that you can do with diplomatic monarch points than just go ahead of tech. Also, the effect of being ahead of technology and diplomacy is not that great. So now we'll go to the effects. First of all, these are unlocks. So this is the unlocks of the next level. So when we reach tech, we will be unlocking mosque, which is a type of building. When we reach CAF4 here, the square always type of buildings will also increase this. When it's not a square, it's an effect that it's here or here. So we'll go here. These are the types of government that you will unlock as the game progresses. As I explained earlier, you have, well, 3 types of government. I don't know why they put tribes here, but you have the monarchies, you have the republics. Theocracies doesn't have upgrades because they only have one. Well, there's 2 types of theocracies, but they are separate. They don't mix together, and it's not an upgrade on the other one. These are tribes. These are for natives. Hordes don't upgrade. They usually become a monarchy eventually. So if you mouse over it, you'll have the other types. Noble Republic is a monarchy now. Okay, whatever. So yeah, it unlocks. Usually when you reach a new type of government, you want to change that one because, generally speaking, the bonuses are better than the old ones. With the exception when you reach constitutional monarchy, there's a mechanic link to it that you might not want to use. We'll get to that when we get to that. And the last one, Revolutionary Empire, and the same thing in Republic, Revolutionary Republic, you cannot choose it by doing this. You need to do something specific. There's a process to go to Revolutionary. Administrative efficiency will come in the mid-late game. It will lower the cost of coring provinces as well as letting you take more in a war and a peace deal. Development efficiency will lower the cost of improving development, which we'll explain when we get to the provinces. Number of ID groups, we'll explain that right after, but basically the number of ID groups that you have access to is bound to your administrative technology, which are unlocked at these levels. We'll get our first at 5, so pretty soon. Production efficiency, this is the reason why I said that production as the game progresses will catch up on your taxes and eventually will surpass it, because your production efficiency will go up and up as the game progresses. While taxes, there's no effect, direct effect on that from technology. These are the buildings unlocked, so as you can see on tech at level 4 we unlock the mosque. You have the other buildings that are linked through administrative here. And forced march is something that everyone gets at 15 technology, which is an action that you can do in an army to make it move faster at the expense of military points. In diplomatic, these are ship types. You have 4 ship types. I will explain that when we do the navies. But basically you have heavy ships, light ships which are used for trading, galleys, and transports. If you mouse over it, these will upgrade as it goes on. The basic thing is when you unlock a new type, you want to upgrade, although upgrading costs money, but you want to do it as fast as possible, because if your ships are not upgraded and end up fighting another navy that is upgraded, the chances are you're going to lose and your fleet will be sunk. Trade efficiency is basically the same as production efficiency, but affects trade. So it will increase your trade income as the game progresses, but then other nation gets it, and as trade is competitive, you might not see an increase in that if you're on the same tech level as someone else. Trade range is because you cannot put a merchant in any node that you want. As you can see, these nodes are grayed out for me, so I can't even move a merchant there. As the game progresses, you can send merchants further and further away from your capital. This is what that does. Naval maintenance, as you increase diplomatic technology, the maintenance of your navy will go up. Don't be worried about that. The effect of that is very small unless you're like England or Spain, in which case you're rich anyways. Naval morale, basically the morale is a basic mechanic in combat. It will make your ships last longer before running away. Colonial range and global settler increase are statistics used by colonial nations. Colonial range is a bit like trade range. You cannot colonize anywhere you want in the world. You have a range to your nearest province. This is it. And global settler increase will basically speed up the speed at which a colony becomes a province. Buildings, the same thing as here. Can place merchant, that's at 1. It's not really a tech because everyone is at least 1. At 22 technology in diplomacy, your ships will stop taking attrition by being in open seas for a while. So if you have your ships in open seas, the darker waters, that do not share a border with, do not share shore with your land or an ally that you have fleet basing rights or is in a war with you, your ship will start taking attrition. This attrition will increase every month that it's in open seas. Until you have technology 22, then you will still take attrition, but this attrition will not increase every month. And at 23 you have access to client states and advanced casus belli. Client states are a type of vassals that I will explain when we get there, if we get there. And advanced casus belli are 2 casus belli that are extremely powerful. It's the only ones you really use when you reach that, which are imperialism, which you have on everyone in the world, and lets you do many things, and nationalism, which is a very low aggressive expansion casus belli on anyone that owns provinces in your culture group. But again, we'll go more in detail when we get there. Military technology. I will skip a lot of this until we get to combat. When we actually have a combat, I'll explain the basics of that. So, unit types. You have infantry, cavalry, and artillery. Each of them have a statistic, a basic stat, and fire and shock. They also have pips, we'll explain when we go to military. Basically, I don't want to explain combat yet, but when you do combat, you have 2 phases, a shock phase and a fire phase. This is how well they are doing in this. I'll go more in details when you do combat. You also have increase in units. As the units increases, they will gain more pips, which we'll see when we go to military tab. Basically, you have a front of infantry, a flank of cavalry, and a back row of cannons, or of artillery. That's how combat basically works. This is really, really basic. Flanking is a flanking range for your cavalry. It lets them attack a wider range of flank. I'll explain when we have a battle. Tactics will lower the number of casualty you take from the damage that the enemy army is giving you. Tactics is only gained by two things, by technology, so everyone has access to it at the same level. That's the thing I didn't say. Everyone has the same exact thing from every single tech level, with the exception of type of units. This is based on your tech group. So this is the Anatolian troops. The West doesn't have the same units, but generally speaking, units on the long run have the same value, it's just that they don't have the same specialty. So tactics is only gained directly from technology. The only source of it will be discipline, which is a statistic that you can manipulate yourself. Land morale is the same thing as naval morale. Is the length, the more you have, the longer your units will stay in combat before running away. Combat width is the number of units you can put on the front. I'll explain that when we get there. Supply limit, I explained it already. This is the number of troops that a province can house before taking attrition. As I said when I explained it, supply limit goes with technology. That's exactly that. And these are the buildings. Now, this is it for technology. And I think this video has been long enough, so thank you for watching, everyone. If you're enjoying this or have any questions, please say so in the comments. Also follow on Twitch as well as subscribe on YouTube. I've been Korut, and I'll see you next time.